Prior to World War II, 85, 90% of the black population of this country lives in the South.
Black people had primarily lived in the South because of slavery, and the South was a rural, agrarian, a farm economy.
World War II ushers in a series of transformations that radically change the nature of black history in this country. Blacks, for the first time, are invited en masse to work in America's industrial arsenal for democracy, building those tanks, building those planes, building those ships. Between 1940s and 1970s, you see over 4 million African Americans leave the South in ways that had never occurred before. Head for New York, head for Chicago, head for Los Angeles. For the first time, they were integrated into the American work economy. They were earning enough to be lower middle class homeowners in LA and to establish, if not exactly, a very close similarity to the American dream.
Holding in their hands a Jet magazine. I thought it was the centerfold, again, of the Jet magazine. But no, they were looking at a picture of Emmett Till.
Mississippi. It was 1955. Things had begun to change for people of color in America since slavery times. However, African Americans knew that they were not in a position to force change too quickly. It was in this river that the body of 14-year-old Emmett Till was found after he had been brutally murdered by white men for an exchange of words with a white lady at a store where he went to purchase candy. Emmett Till was black, and being from Chicago was not fully aware of the dangers facing him in the racially charged South. The prosecuting attorney's final statement to the jury was, "I'm sure every one of you Anglo-Saxons will have the courage to free these men." In spite of several eyewitnesses testifying to the abduction of Emmett Till, the jury came back with a not guilty verdict after just 1 hour of deliberation.
His mother insisted that he have an open coffin, a glass coffin, so everybody could see this. And that picture...
It was especially hard to hear about the beatings and the burnings and the lynchings of black men. And I said, you know, this is a little deep. I need a break. I'm going to turn on the radio. I turned it on, and there it was. Ferguson, Missouri. Michael Brown. 18-year-old black man, unarmed, shot by a white police officer, laid on the ground, dead, blood running for 4 hours while his grandmother and little children and his neighbors watched in horror. And I thought, here it is again. This violence, this brutality against black men has been going on for centuries. I mean, it's the same story. It's just different names. I mean, it could have been, you know, it could have been Amadou Diallo. It could have been Sean Bell. It could have been Oscar Grant. It could have been Trayvon Martin. This violence, this brutality is really something that's part of our national psyche. It's part of our collective history. What are we?
Participants united across ideological lines around the black community's most crucial issue, the long-standing economic inequality that the civil rights movement hadn't been able to eradicate.
Now we find ourselves with the right to move in any neighborhood in America, and we can't pay the note. We have the right to go to any school in America. We can't pay the tuition. We got the right to buy any car in America, but we can't stop it from being repossessed. We are not arguing about our constitutionality. We are raising the basic question: when will we get paid for the work we have already done?
In the 70s, we really had a tale of three cities. We have a few African Americans who have achieved real greatness in terms of education and business and politics. Then you had a black middle class that had middle class status, middle class ideals, did not quite have middle class stability, but middle class nonetheless. And then you had a huge swath of the black community that was poor. And its poverty was worse than the poverty that preceded it.
During that time, larger economic forces were reshaping the American landscape. Industries were moving out of the inner cities. White people and African Americans who had made it into the middle class followed the jobs to the suburbs. The black poor were left behind.
There's a big difference, Skip, between neighborhoods in which a majority of the adults are working, like was the case, say, back in 1950, and neighborhoods in which a significant majority of the adults are not working. Joblessness triggers problems in the neighborhood. Family breakups, drug trafficking, gangs.
What you're describing is a perfect storm for disaster for the poorest element of the African American community.
Yeah, absolutely.
What strikes me as a paradox is that all this occurred precisely as black people were gaining increasing political power and efficacy in the cities.